Well, from the first days of his campaign to his frequent tweets about fake news, it's pretty clear Donald Trump is no fan of reporters and news organizations they work for. While it's probably true that no modern president actually enjoys sparring with the media, Mr. Trump has taken his dislike of the press to a whole new level, even calling out the media as the enemy of the American people. But this week, it seems some members of the press corps had finally had enough. Have a listen to this exchange.
You mentioned the Scaramucci story where they had to have reporters resign.
Come on, you're inflaming everybody right here and right now with those words. This administration has done that as well. Why in the name of heavens? Any one of us, right, are replaceable, and any one of us, if we don't get it right, the audience has the opportunity to turn the channel or not read us. You have been elected to serve for 4 years at least. There's no option other than that. We're here to ask you questions. Right. We're here to provide the answers. And what you just did is inflammatory to people all over the country who look at it and say, see, once again, the president is right and everybody else out here is fake media. And everybody in this room is only trying to do their job.
Well, I disagree completely. First of all, I think if anything has been inflamed, it's the dishonesty that often takes place by the news media. And I think it is outrageous for you to accuse me of inflaming a story when I was simply trying to respond to his question.
And obviously that was Brian Karem with the Sentinel in that exchange with White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders. So who's right? Is the press guilty of dishonesty and grandstanding, or is the White House trying to suppress the freedom of the press? To help us out with that, we're joined here in Washington once again by VOA's William Gallo and by former White House correspondent, now senior diplomatic correspondent Cindy Saine. I thank you both for joining us. This is a very interesting topic. So what, is this now the way it is at the White House? Confrontational? Is that what we can expect to see more of, Bill?
It sure seems like it. I mean, this, as you mentioned in your intro, is a level of war with the media that we haven't seen before. I mean, this is unprecedented. I mean, not only does Donald Trump go after the media in general, he goes after specific news outlets, and he goes after specific reporters, as I'm sure we'll talk about.
And a lot of it has to do with the president's constant tweeting, which he got into trouble with again this week, this time with a nasty tweet against MSNBC co-host Mika Brzezinski, right? What did he say that inflamed the public so much?
Well, that's right, Mill. He called her low IQ, and then he said that she and her co-host had visited him at Mar-a-Lago, and she'd been bleeding from a facelift. So it was insulting her intellect and also insulting her appearance, which we've kind of seen a pattern of, well, candidate Trump insulting women, you know, saying that another woman, another host was bleeding from wherever. And it strikes many as, like I said, a very disturbing pattern of especially vicious attacks against women.
In particular, misogynistic, sexist? What do you make of it, Bill?
Well, it's received bipartisan criticism, and many people on both sides of the aisle have.
Republicans are?
Yes, Republicans and Democrats have both criticized those tweets. I'll leave it to them to decide what it is, but it's important to know that this is nothing new. I mean, Donald Trump has done this for a long time. In fact, there are decades of records, whether that's in books like Donald Trump's Art of the Deal, right, or whether interviews or tweets of him suggesting that whenever someone criticizes, he will hit back, and he'll hit back hard.
I guess that's nothing new from a reality television star, but we're talking about the office of the presidency here. I mean, we're not talking about any other person just responding fire with fire. We're talking about the highest office in the land, basically gutter fighting.
Yes, and as Bill said, there has been bipartisan condemnation, with particularly a number of women senators saying, just stop it. Just stop the tweets. This is beneath the dignity of the office. And some are saying it would be a good idea maybe if some of the women senators and members of Congress would meet with President Trump and discuss with him and talk about the role model function that he does have, and say that, you know, this is upsetting to their daughters. It's not a good role model for their sons. Perhaps have to try to have some influence.
That's an interesting idea, and I'd be curious to see if that actually works. But Bill, I guess my question to you is, when did the press all of a sudden become the enemy of the people?
Well, as you mentioned before, this is nothing new that the media has fought with the president, but when have they become the enemy of the people? That's a relatively new development. Donald Trump has shown a willingness to go after media that no one else has shown. I don't know how this is going to get any better, honestly.
It almost feels like you have to duck for cover every time Sean Spicer or Sarah Huckabee speaks. Right. Speaking of which, Cindy, you were White House correspondent for the latter part of the Obama administration. What was it like? I mean, I'm looking at a comparison here. What was it like sitting there at a press briefing under Josh Earnest?
It was very tame, if not to say maybe a little boring in comparison. They went on very long, often an hour and a half or 2 hours, and you would catch yourself yawning from time to time. And there were, of course, some disagreements, and some people challenged him, especially on his Syria policy. Not everybody was happy with it, but it was a much more. There weren't the sort of the sense of
not the slugfest.
Yeah, exactly. The sense of hostility and open warfare that you're getting now.
And Bill Gallo, you've sat in under a few of Sean Spicer's press briefings. What's that like?
It's must-see TV. That's what it is. I mean, it's completely a different thing from what the Obama...
Is that part of the problem, maybe? Is it that have reporters made these daily press briefings must-see TV?
Well, that is the public explanation given by White House officials as to why they have held fewer on-camera briefings and fewer briefings in general. They say that too many reporters are using this to sort of become famous, to sort of, up their profile a little bit, create YouTube moments. I think there's something to be said for that. This is television, after all. They've also used as an excuse that they want Donald Trump's voice to dominate the headlines, and I think there's a bit of truth in that as well.
But it's also, I mean, it seems to me, more of a White House spin room now. I mean, it's always deny, 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 and defend, defend, defend the president, even when clearly the public knows that he is wrong or he's lied on certain facts. What do you make of these? Is this censorship, what's going on right now? Because we are seeing the daily press briefings minimized, sometimes with delayed, not live, and sometimes only audio. That's never happened before.
Right. Well, actually, it was under Bill Clinton that they were first televised, the White House briefings. Mm-hmm. And I think Bill is right to some degree that there is, some grandstanding done by especially the big network reporters. But I think what to me is more serious is when you have the White House press secretaries and the president saying fake news. This is all fake news. And I think that is an attack really on the fourth estate, as we call it here in the United States, which serves a vital function in our democracy. And it's also an attack on the truth itself. And it started in Sean Spicer's very first White House press briefing about the crowd size.
all know that.
And there were photos. And he came out on attack that very first briefing. And ever since then, it's been kind of a downhill slide.
Bill Gallo, has this made your life harder as a reporter?
It's made it more exciting.
Is that right?
It's more exhausting. I mean, there's definitely an aspect of this. You go to work every day and you just don't know what to expect. I mean, anything could happen in those briefings. They really are must-see TV. It's weird knowing that the whole country is watching. And these briefings, they get good ratings on cable television, all three networks. It's like being a part of a circus, a very unpredictable circus in a way.
You've become part of a three-ring circus. But last question, Cindy. To be fair to the president, I mean, how useful really are these press briefings?
Well, and the Bill Clinton aide who first got these televised said that he regretted it. It was one of the worst things he ever done, that the news value actually goes down. So there is some, how useful they are. Most of our stories, we have to dig elsewhere for them, not necessarily from the briefing. So that is true.
So expect more fireworks, right?
Yes.
My thanks to Bill Gallo and Cindy Saine. I wish I had more time with two of you, and of course all of our correspondents today, but that's our time for today. We will be back again next week for another edition of The Correspondents. In the meantime, stay up to date with the latest developments around the world at voanews.com. You can also check out our shows there. Just click on the Watch tab on the upper right. We're also on Facebook and YouTube at VOA The Correspondents. I'm Mil Arcega. Thanks for watching. For now, so long from Washington.